I mean, honestly, if I'm Minnesota, I think Cameron Jordan might be a decent fit for them too. I'd like to see him in a 4-3 and see what you could do moving him around the line. I think he could be an intriguing pick. I don't think it's the best fit per se, but Jared Allen, more that pure pass rusher. You can use Jordan in a number of different ways.
If I'm Minnesota, my goal is to get the ammunition needed to trade back up in the second round to get the quarterback I want.
Yeah.
And whatever happens in the first round, that's just the cherry on top of the sundae. But you need to make sure you get the quarterback you want.
Yeah, interesting question here is where could Robert Quinn fall now that Houston passed on him, assuming Minnesota passes on him as well?
Well, I think these next 3 picks he's going to be a possibility for. Vikings, Lions, Rams. I think the Redskins are going to look at him again at 16. The Chargers, depending on it depends on the Redskins and Chargers. They view him as an outside linebacker. The Giants, never
God only knows.
Taking a defensive end.
Well, the pick is in for Minnesota, so they're making a pick.
Right.
No trade. Daquan Bowers obviously still on the board, but
it's got to be a defensive end, I would think.
Yeah, I think it's got to be Jordan, Bowers, Quinn.
There's a dark horse.
Yeah, then they grabbed someone last year. I don't know. They got Chris Cook last year.
But he was hurt all year long. Antoine Winfield was getting close to the end of his
older.
career. Cedric Griffins tore up his knee 2 years in a row. I think both knees.
Yeah. Now it's gonna be interesting because there's still a lot of D linemen to consider here. All right, here comes.
Really surprised to reach for a quarterback. Oh.
Wow, Christian Ponder at 12. All right, Scott. Well, these quarterbacks are flying fast and heavy. It's 4 in the top 12. What do you think about this pick for your hometown team, I guess?
Well, it's a lot better than Andy Dalton or Colin Kaepernick, but it's a reach.
Yeah. I mean,
I think they were probably worried about the Redskins. That's probably why they didn't move down.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were maybe worried the Dolphins or the Redskins or somebody was going to take him. But, I like Christian Ponder. I think he'll be a good fit in that offense. And I'm not going to criticize him too much because you need a quarterback. At least do it. I mean, they did what the Cardinals and the 49ers didn't do. Get a quarterback.
And now the Cardinals and 49ers are pretty much dead in the water because there's still a lot of these later first-round teams that need a QB. It's going to be tough to get.
Right, and I don't think the Cardinals were ever taking a quarterback in this draft.
No.
At least not early. I think they're going to have Bulger, and then they're going to have Skelton Hall. I think that's their quarterback depth chart.
Quarterback depth chart, grabbing someone else. So Prince Amukamara on the board at 13 for Detroit. Is this a slam dunk pick right here, or could we see Quinn or Jordan or any of these defensive linemen? I mean, we're still looking at Fairley and still looking at Daquan Bowers.
Well, I think the wild cards are Quinn and Fairley, who weren't necessarily supposed to be there either. And I think the Lions could use help along that defensive line, especially at end. So I wouldn't rule that out. But boy, Amukamara, you have to think this would be a dream scenario for them.
Oh, I think it's got to be a dream scenario for them, and I know, McShane Kiper had Amukamara falling a lot further than this. It's just the biggest need on your team, and I think it's a player that's played like a top 15 caliber pick. It really should be a slam dunk here. I get this twinging fear that it's going to be something else, and I can't imagine Lions fans would be too happy about that.
And I had Christian Ponder at number 49 on my big board. And this is another thing I brought up in the podcast. I would love to ask the Vikings, all right, you have Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback. Now what type of grade do you give Christian Ponder? Is he the 12th best player in this draft?
No.
Not even close.
No way. There's no way he would still be that high on their board if that was the case. But like you said, Joe Webb is your quarterback right now. When Joe Webb is your quarterback, I don't think you care. You're going to get whoever you can.
I'm as big of a proponent as focusing on need as anybody, but you have to do it within reason. I mean, if Christian Ponder was rated 22 on your board, and there was a defensive lineman that was 14, well, fine, reach a little bit for a quarterback. But Christian Ponder's not a first-round talent. I'm sorry.
Yeah, injury history, all that. Well, the Detroit Lions pick is in, so they're making a pick here, which we expected. I don't think we expected a trade for that. Yeah, I'm going to stick with Amukamara. I think it's got to happen if you're Detroit. I think that's what you had in your mock, Scott. If he fell this far, now, like you said, Quinn Fairley, don't expect to be there, but you just addressed, you got one of the best defensive players in the draft last year on your D-line. Do you really need another one? I think you can find that later.
The only guy who would intrigue me is Quinn.
Yeah.
Here, the only other guy who would make me go away from Mukamara, just because Van den Bosch is getting up there in years, and they really don't have a whole
Cliff
lot.
Averill.
Yeah, who's probably better as a situational pass rusher.
Mm-hmm. I think it all depends on that medical, too, that we don't know.
Right.
All right, here we go. Nick Fairley. So, my goodness, Nick Fairley and Ndamukong Suh going to be on the same line. It's good value. Obviously, he's a disruptive player. I guess you're playing Suh at nose. I honestly would just run at Nick Fairley all day, and you know, if you have a good interior line, I'm not sure if it's best use for them. I think you can still torch them through the air, just quick passes. I don't know. I don't love the pick.
I think Ndamukong Suh's probably going to play the nose in this situation.
Yeah.
And I don't mind the pick. I think it's a situation where Ndamukong Suh is going to keep Nick Fairley on the straight and narrow. They're going to motivate each other. And I think Suh is going to motivate Fairley. And I have a lot of respect for Jim Schwartz. I think he's a heck of a coach. He's a defensive guy. I don't think it's bad. I think it's good value. Because, let's face it, if Nick Fairley didn't have maturity and work ethic issues, he's a top 5 pick.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that's the case. If that the Lions are going to kind of overlook that, and you know what I think the nice thing is with this is that Ndamukong Suh is a high character guy. I mean, I don't think he can get much better than Suh. So now he's taking Nick Fairley under his wing in year 2, and he gets to show him the ropes. And I imagine if Nick Fairley is not up to date with his effort, then you have Suh, you have Van den Bosch up his butt. I don't think that's such a bad situation for Fairley to go to work those problems out.
No, I mean, and obviously Detroit still has big needs on the second and third levels of that defense. They need a linebacker, they need a cornerback, but I think they can address those positions in the second and third round. And I think they looked at it and said, hey, as good as Prince Amukamara is, I think in the second round they're going to be picking relatively high, number 44. I think there's a good chance they can get maybe a Rossai Dowling or
Brandon Harris, yeah,
or Johnny Patrick. So, and in the third round, I think there will be some decent value at corner as well.
That's not bad. So let's talk about St. Louis here, because Prince Amukamara falls to 14. Is this a position they look for? Are they still going to go Corey legit? Or maybe Spagnuolo sees Cameron Jordan as the next Justin Tuck and wants to go with him?
Yeah, and and Robert Quinn. I think Robert Quinn's an intriguing guy because Chris Long's a good player and he finally started to break out last year, but Robert Quinn's a different animal. You put Chris Long on the left side and let Quinn hit his ears back and rush passer against those left tackles. That's a pretty big upgrade to that defensive line. And when Spagnuolo was in New York, he had a lot of good defensive ends: Strahan, Umenyiora, Justin Tuck, Kiwanuka. So he knows the value of those guys. Yeah,
you know, and I feel like a lot of those guys are a little bit bigger, you know, so I don't know if Quinn is quite the fit for St. Louis. And once again, Quinn is such a wild card. You know, Quinn and Bowers, I think, because medically, I don't know who approved what or what team thinks what about that, and that's what makes them so tough to situate. So that's why my guess would probably be on another side. If they do like Corey legit this much, I think taking him can still be a very, very good pick.
And something that's interesting to me too for a little later, the Cincinnati Bengals now sitting at 35. So all these quarterbacks coming off the board. Who are they? They might be starting to Palmer next year, but it might be Jordan Palmer.
Well, at least he's throwing to AJ Green, right?
Maybe Ryan Mallett. That's a Bengals type pick.
They may have to go that route. If he falls that far, or someone's going to trade up. So what do you think? Do you think Dalton and Kaepernick are going to go round 1 now?
I think so. Yeah.
Wow.
Just a matter of how high. I think the Washington Redskins could very well take Kaepernick
16?
a little bit later here, yeah.
My goodness. I can buy Ponder as a first-round pick, maybe not top 15 pick. I could buy him as a first-round pick. I can't for Dalton and Kaepernick. I just can't do it.
No, I can't either. And Ponder would be a real stretch for me. Maybe you could convince me if my quarterback's Joe Webb to take him in the late first round.
Right. I can see Ponder starting. I can see him starting in the NFL, and I just think I can't see Dalton starting at all. I think Kaepernick's going to take time. You take him round 1, it's not going to happen. He's going to kind of fall out. So that's, man, maybe another one 15. Someone in the chat room, Yoshi just mentioned Miami's sitting there 15. Same deal with them. They don't have a second-round pick. They want a quarterback. It's now or never.
What must Jimmy Clausen be thinking? She's like, geez, I came out 1 year ago. All quarterbacks are going off the board left and right, and then I just lost my starting job in Carolina.
Can we get the CBA figured out so Carolina can trade me, please?
Yeah.
Because someone's going to be sitting without a quarterback, and Jimmy Clausen will look really attractive.
Yeah, no kidding.
If you're Cincinnati and Jordan Palmer's your starter, then Jimmy Clausen doesn't look too bad all of a sudden.
Robert Quinn.
Oh, there you go. So it is Robert Quinn. Good call with that one, Scott. Dynamic pass rusher. I think this upgrades that defense a lot. Yeah. This is such a good pick. Him and Chris Long are going to complement each other so well, as you kind of mentioned. Rushing off that edge. If people didn't get to see his tape 2 years ago, you would really buy into him as a top 15 pick if you got to watch a few games of his. I think a lot of people didn't get to see him play or wasn't thinking about him at the time.
And I really, the only reason he's here, I think, is the medical. I think some teams are scared by the medical.
Sure. And if the brain situation comes back, then that's very tough, and I've heard varying opinions. Our friend Matt Patanti, Draft Daddy, definitely not a Quinn fan, very scared of that. And, I'm one that likes to take risks, so I would be willing to take him this high for sure. He is that dynamic pass rusher. I think I was just really unsure of if a team would take that chance and where it would be, but 14 seems about right.
And in my final mock, I had him going 12 to the Vikings, so he goes 2 picks later, right about the same range.
Not too bad.
And I had him as my 5th best player in the whole draft, so I think it's outstanding value.
So you think this is a system, too, with Spags, that he can be successful, that if the medical works itself out, this is going to be a dynamic player we're talking about at the end of this year?
Absolutely. And I really believe had he played this past year, he might have been the number 1 overall pick. I've said all along I thought he was that type of talent. Just a big fan of his. He could be that 15-sack-a-year guy.
So now we're getting questions. Does Ryan Mallett go in the first round? Is Miami going to take that? We've had a few questions in the chat room about that.
Possible. I wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah.
What's going on with the quarterbacks?
Yeah, Brian Mallett's just so physical. If Christian Ponder is going at 12, and you compare the arm strength of Christian Ponder to Ryan Mallett, someone's got to fall in love with that arm. Who cares about the off-the-field issues? And just go with it in the first round. Even if it's late first, I think he'll go. I still can't see Dalton, Scott. I can't understand Dalton. I still can't see it. I don't know.
Well, the whole thing is, if the Dolphins want a quarterback in this draft, they need to do it now.
They better do it now.
Because they don't have a second rounder.
Washington's picking right after them.
Yeah, and come round 3, they're going to be gone. The top 8 are going to be gone. Then you're looking at the next guy is maybe Nathan Enderle in round 5.
Greg McElroy, T.J. Yates. I mean, that's what you're stuck with.
Yeah. So then you're essentially saying, okay, we're either going to go Chad Henne or we're going to hope to get a veteran.
And that's why I think Miami could pass.